For 1,000 years, the ancient ship floated in silence near the red star called Vulcaron. It was massive, black as the void, and shaped like a winged creature frozen in time. Alien scientists from across the galaxy had studied it. Many tried to unlock its secrets, but none had succeeded. They called it the Gravemind, a dead machine with a living heart no one could reach. Zira stood in front of the ship, her eyes glowing with the soft blue light of her people. She was from the Durelian Empire, a race of proud and intelligent beings. Zira was a tech specialist, trained since childhood in alien machinery. She believed in science, control, and logic. To her, humans were wild creatures from a backward world. Today, everything was about to change. Why? Is he here? Zira whispered as she watched the human walk into the docking bay. Eli Trent, a human pilot from Earth, walked with slow steps. He looked tired, like someone who had seen too much war and lost too many friends. His eyes scanned the ancient ship. With quiet wonder, he didn't speak much, just nodded at the crew and waited for instructions. The alien captain, a tall creature with 6 eyes, looked at Zira. "Let him try," the captain said. "Nothing else has worked." Zira frowned, arms crossed. "You think a human can do what Durelians, Drakari, and even the Tel Shun could not? He's not even trained." "Maybe that's the point," the captain replied. "Maybe training is not what this ship wants." Eli stepped forward as the doors to the Gravemind opened. For centuries, the doors had remained sealed, but now they moved with a soft hiss. The air inside was cold and still, like stepping into a forgotten tomb. Zira followed, watching closely, ready to record every detail. Lights on the walls flickered as Eli walked in. One by one, the ship began to glow. Eli touched a panel, and something amazing happened. The ship responded. A hum filled the air, deep and powerful. Symbols lit up around them, moving like waves of energy. The ship was waking up. Zira's heart raced, but she didn't show it. She walked beside Eli, looking at the controls lighting up around him. "How are you doing this?" she asked, her voice low. "I don't know," Eli said. "It feels familiar." The central core of the ship, a giant crystal chamber, opened before them. No one had ever seen it before. Inside, a floating sphere pulsed with light. Eli stepped closer, and without touching it, the sphere connected with him. Zira's scanner beeped wildly. The energy levels were off the charts. The ship wasn't just waking up, it was bonding. Alarms rang across the space station outside. "Core activation detected," said a robotic voice. The ancient ship was powering on for the first time in 1,000 years. Outside the ship, dozens of alien scientists gathered to watch. Some were afraid, some were amazed inside. Eli stood still as the sphere showed him visions. He saw stars, explosions, old battles, and strange cities. He saw ancient humans flying the ship. He saw them fall, and the ship waiting for someone like him. Zira watched him, her thoughts racing. "This cannot be possible," she said to herself. "How can a human connect with a ship older than all our histories?" Eli opened his eyes, breathing hard. "The ship wants to fly," he said. "It remembers me." Zira stepped back, her world shaking. Everything she believed was being challenged. The Gravemind had waited 1,000 years, not for the strongest or the smartest, but for a human. Suddenly the entire ship shook. The engines rumbled with life. Panels opened, screens lit up, and a voice spoke from the walls in an unknown language. Zira turned to Eli, her voice a whisper. "What have you done?" Eli looked at her, calm and steady. "I didn't do anything," he said. "It chose me." The captain's voice crackled through the communicator. "Stand by," he ordered. "The ship is moving." Everyone on the station watched as the ancient ship, once thought dead, slowly lifted from its dock. No one was flying it except Eli. Zira sat down beside him, eyes wide. She didn't understand how or why, but she knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere deep inside, the ship was awake, and it had plans. Asterisk space stood still as the ancient ship drifted beyond the station's orbit. Inside, Eli sat in the pilot seat, but he wasn't touching any controls. He didn't need to. The ship moved by itself smooth. Silent, alive, it flew as if it was. Part of him, like a missing limb, finally returned. Zira stood behind him, arms crossed tightly, eyes sharp. Her mind couldn't make sense of it. This human, this fragile creature from a primitive planet, was doing the impossible. The ship wasn't reacting to him, it was obeying him. No one in the galaxy had ever seen anything like this. But the real question burned inside her. Why was the ship choosing him? Not her, not any Duralian, not the Telshun or the Hive pilots. Why a human? The control room glowed with pale blue lights that responded only to Eli's presence. Symbols floated mid-air, changing shapes, as if reading his thoughts. Zira reached for one of them, but it vanished before her hand touched it. Only Eli could see them clearly, only he could understand. You don't feel it? Eli asked quietly, his voice calm but distant. Feel what? Zira replied, annoyed. The heartbeat, he said. This ship has a heartbeat. Zira looked around. And then she heard it too, a faint thump, like something breathing. The ship was alive, not in the biological sense, but in some deeper way. It was ancient, older than any record. Yet it responded like a living creature. Eli stood up, drawn toward the central hallway that had just opened by itself. He followed the glowing symbols without hesitation. Zira followed him, scanning everything, recording data, but nothing made sense. Her scanner showed false readings, broken logic, code that didn't match any known tech. The hallway led them to a new chamber, one no one had ever seen, because it never existed before. The ship was changing its layout for him. Inside the room, hundreds of small floating stones circled above a glowing floor. Each stone had images, battles, faces, planets, stars exploding. Eli stepped in and the stones moved around him, like memories waking from sleep. Suddenly, a vision took over the room. Zira gasped as the walls turned transparent, showing the past. A race of beings, tall and humanoid, sat inside the same ship, but their skin was brown, their faces soft, their eyes full of wonder. They were humans, or something close. Thousands of years ago, they were the first, Eli said softly. I don't know how I know, but I do. Zira's hand shook. The ship had been made by ancient humans, long before Earth had cities or satellites. That meant humans weren't just new to space. They were returning to it. Zira couldn't believe it. It broke everything she had learned. It was impossible, yet here it was. Why now? She asked, why you? I think, Eli whispered, because I'm broken enough to listen. Before Zira could reply, alarms echoed through the ship. Red lights blinked on the outer wall. An alert flashed in alien script. The ship was detecting something nearby, something dangerous. A small orb appeared in front of Eli. It showed a map, a glowing red triangle moving toward them at high speed. Another ship was approaching, but it wasn't from the space station. It was unknown, silent, and aiming for them. Eli rushed back to the control seat. The ship turned on its own, lights flaring brighter, weapons powered up, but in a way Zira had never seen. Like the ship was angry. Do you know how to fight with this thing? Zira shouted. I don't need to, Eli said. It remembers how. Outside. The stars shifted as the ancient ship moved faster than any known engine. Zira felt the pull in her chest, like her body couldn't keep up. This wasn't technology, it was something more, something forgotten by time. The enemy ship fired. A beam of red light cut through space, but the Gravemind spun and dodged like a dancer in the stars. It returned fire not with lasers, but with pure energy. A golden pulse burst from its wings, hitting the enemy ship directly. Silence returned. The threat was gone. Eli leaned back, breathing hard. The ship hummed, calm once again. Zira looked at him, her voice low. You just controlled a weapon we didn't even know existed. Eli nodded, eyes still glowing with the ship's reflection. I didn't control it, he said. It protected us. Zira stared at him for a long moment. Something had changed in the galaxy, not just because the ship had awakened, but because it had chosen a human, and now nothing would be the same again. The ship stopped moving, but the silence was heavier than before. Not the silence of space, but the kind that comes before a secret is told. Zira stepped into the center of the chamber, her heart still racing from the last battle, but this time there was no enemy outside. The battle was now inside the ship, inside the truth it wanted to show. Eli stood quietly, his hand resting on the control orb. His eyes were open, but he wasn't really looking. He was seeing something else, something beyond the room. Zira called his name, but he didn't answer. The lights dimmed, and the air shimmered like a heat wave from the walls. A soft voice began to speak, not in any known language, but the meaning came clear in their minds. Not through sound, but through feeling. "You have returned," the voice said. Zira's eyes widened. Her fingers frozen mid-scan. "Returned?" She thought, what does that mean? A holographic image appeared, filling the room with stars. Planets rotated, galaxies formed, and then the image zoomed in on a green-blue world, Earth. But it didn't look like the Earth Zira knew from reports. This one had floating cities, crystal towers, ships moving across the sky. Humans walked side by side with tall golden beings. Together, they built things, machines, temples, starships. Zira took a step forward, unable to look away. "What is this?" she whispered. Eli finally spoke, his voice low. "It's the past," the voice continued. "We were one people, long ago, keepers of balance, builders of stars. But when pride grew, we fell apart, scattered across time. The key was hidden until a heart lost in war could find it again." Zira turned to Eli. "Are they saying you're connected to them?" Eli looked at the image of the ancient humans. He touched his chest, as if remembering something old and painful. "I think I am," he said. "I don't know how, but I feel it." Suddenly, the lights shifted again. The star map changed, and a bright golden circle appeared deep in space. Words floated beside it, this time in a strange symbol that rearranged itself into something readable. "The key of life." Zira's mouth went dry. The stories, the myths, they all spoke of a force that could shape galaxies. Some said it was a weapon, others said it was a code, but this ship called it life. A shadow crossed the map, a dark, spiked figure approaching the golden light. The voice returned. "They come to claim it, to twist what was sacred. Only one of the blood may awaken the core." Zira turned away from the hologram, shaken. Everything was happening too fast. The human Eli wasn't just flying the ship. He was part of something much older and much deeper. She stared at him, this quiet man who said little. He had scars on his arms and pain in his eyes. He didn't look like a savior or a chosen one. But the ship didn't care about looks, or rank, or race. It cared about his heart. "You're the link," she said slowly. "The last piece of a broken chain." Eli nodded, but didn't smile. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "I just wanted peace." Before she could answer, the ship's lights pulsed sharply. A new message appeared on the wall coordinates. Shifting quickly, they were being sent somewhere. Again, "Where is it taking us now?" Zira asked. Eli walked to the center of the chamber. "It's not taking us anywhere," he said. "It's showing us the way." Zira checked the data stream, her face pale. The coordinates were unknown, deep beyond any star charts. A dead zone, full of cosmic storms and black matter. "No ship ever returned from there," she said. Eli turned to her. "Then it's the perfect place to hide a secret." The chamber closed behind them, and the ship hummed with new energy. The journey had started, but this was no longer just about flying. It was about unlocking the past before the future fell. Into darkness, Zira placed a hand on the wall. Feeling its pulse, she looked at Eli. Truly looked at him, not as a human, but as something more. "I hope you're ready," she said quietly. "Because the galaxy isn't." Zira couldn't sleep. The stars outside moved too fast, like time itself was rushing past her, inside the ship. The walls whispered softly, pulsing with lights she still didn't understand. But it wasn't the ship keeping her awake. It was him, Eli Trent, the human pilot, the man who had done the impossible, the man the ship had chosen, the man who had no idea why. Zira sat alone in the quiet observatory chamber, her hand resting on the glowing glass. She watched Eli from afar as he stood in the central core, the ship reacting to his every move. Every time he stepped forward, the ship opened new doors, showed new secrets, but when she tried, nothing happened. Not a single light, not a single sound. She clenched her jaw. This wasn't jealousy, this was frustration. She had trained her whole life for this. She had studied machines from 100 species. She was a daughter of the Durelian High House, and yet the ship ignored her like she wasn't even there. She remembered her father's words, cold and sharp. Logic above all, emotion is weakness, do not feel command. He had raised her like a machine, expecting nothing less than perfection, and she had given it, again and again, until now. Now she stood in the shadow of a human who never asked for greatness, and yet greatness had found him. She walked back to the control chamber, where Eli stood quietly. "Can I try something?" she asked. He stepped aside without a word. Zira placed her hands on the orb. She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, focused every thought. The orb didn't move. She whispered the activation code in every language she knew. Still nothing. She opened her eyes and stared at the orb. "Why not me?" she whispered. Behind her, Eli watched. "You're trying too hard," he said. Zira turned sharply. "What do you know about trying?" Eli didn't flinch. "I've failed more times than I can count," he said. "But I never tried to be chosen." Zira's voice cracked. "I don't care about being chosen. I just want to understand." The ship's lights flickered softly, as if reacting to her pain. But still, the orb did not move. Suddenly, the walls around them shimmered. The ship opened a new room, a memory chamber. But different this time. Eli stepped forward, but the ship blocked him. Only Zira could enter. She looked at Eli, surprised, then stepped inside. The door closed behind her. Inside, the room shifted into a scene from her own past. A war zone, broken buildings, sky on fire. Zira stood still, frozen by the memory. She saw herself as a child, hiding under metal ruins, her hands over her ears. Her mother lying still beside her. Tears welled in her eyes. "No," she whispered. "Not this memory, not now." The voice of the ship echoed around her. "You fear weakness. You bury pain. But pain is the key." Zira dropped to her knees, breathing hard. "I don't want to feel this," she said. "Then you will never fly," the ship replied. Outside, Eli waited, watching the glowing door. He knew what the ship was doing. He had been through it. He had seen his own darkness, faced it, accepted it. Minutes passed, then hours. Finally the door opened. Zira stepped out, pale and silent, her hands trembling. But her eyes were clear. The orb lit up behind her, softly, not fully, but enough. The ship had accepted her. Not as a pilot, but as something more. Eli looked at her. "You okay?" Zira nodded slowly. "I think so," she said. "It showed me the part of myself I locked away." They sat side by side in the silence, not as rivals, but as something closer to allies, maybe even friends. Then the ship pulsed again, and alarms rang out. A warning appeared, an approaching threat. A fleet was coming, and fast. Zira stood up, her voice steady. "They found us." Eli looked at her. "Then let's show them what this ship can really do." The ancient gravemind came alive once more. And this time, it flew with two hearts beating together. The stars no longer looked peaceful. They blinked like warning lights in a dark hallway. The gravemind was no longer drifting. It was moving, fast, through hidden space lanes older than any map. And behind it, something was following. Zira stood at the navigation panel, her eyes locked on the tracking display. A cluster of ships had appeared at their tail, silent, cold, and moving with deadly purpose. Not from the station, not from any known empire. These were hunters, and they were closing in. Eli sat in the pilot's seat, the orb glowing softly beneath his hands. His eyes were distant, locked on something only he could feel. He didn't speak, but the ship did through him. "The Kravak," he said quietly. Zira's face turned pale. She knew the name, everyone in the galaxy did. The Kravak weren't just another alien race. They were a shadow force, believed to be myths by most silent invaders. Scavengers of ancient tech, killers of history, and now they wanted the Gravemind. "They're not here to study it," Zira said. "No," Eli replied. "They're here to tear it apart, outside." The enemy ships shifted formation, preparing to strike. They didn't send messages, didn't open comms, just cold movement and red light like wolves closing in. "Shields," Zira shouted. The Gravemind responded before Eli moved. A shimmer of golden energy spread across the hull, alive, pulsing, growing stronger with every breath Eli took. Zira slid into the co-pilot's seat. She didn't need the ship to accept her. Now she had already seen the truth, and the ship remembered her courage. "They're charging weapons," she said. Eli nodded. "So are we." The Gravemind's wings opened wider, revealing parts of the ship no one had seen before. Golden lines lit up across its body like veins. From deep inside, a low hum began, growing louder. The ship was waking up for battle. A blast of red plasma came from the Kravak lead ship. It raced through the dark, burning space in its path. Zira held her breath, but the Gravemind moved, not fast, instant. Like it bent time around itself. The beam missed by a mile. Eli's eyes glowed softly, his voice calm. "I don't fly it," he said. "I let it remember how to fly." The ship returned fire, not with guns, not with missiles. It released a pulse of golden sound. One enemy ship shook violently, lights bursting from within. Then, silence, gone. Zira stared at the screen. "That wasn't an attack," she whispered. "It was like a command, a shutdown code," Eli answered. "It knows how to stop them, because it's fought them before." The Kravak didn't retreat. They sent more ships forward, faster, angrier. One broke formation and flew toward the Gravemind. At full speed, a suicide strike. Zira reached for the emergency shield, but the ship moved first. A barrier of white light appeared. The crashing ship hit it, then dissolved. Pixel by pixel, nothing left, not even a sound. Eli and Zira looked at each other. This wasn't just power. This was ancient knowledge wrapped in living metal. This was a ship built to defend, not to rule. "We can't stay here," Zira said. "They'll keep coming." "I know," Eli replied. "But now I know where we have to go." The orb pulsed, and a new map appeared. Coordinates far across the galaxy, on the edge of nothingness. At its center, Earth. Zira frowned. "Your home planet?" "Yes," Eli said, "but not the Earth we know. The Earth that came before history." The Gravemind changed course, faster than light. The stars stretched, space bent, and the ship vanished from the Kravak's reach. Inside, silence returned. Zira sat quietly, thinking. The enemy was real, the past was calling, and the future depended on a ship that remembered too much, and a human who never wanted to remember at all. She looked at Eli, his eyes tired but steady. "You okay?" "I'm still breathing," he replied. "Then we keep going," she said. Together, the ship pulsed once more, and in the distance, on the forgotten side of Earth, something old began to stir. Asterisk, the ship dropped out of hyperspace with a whisper, not a crash, not a roar, just a deep silence, as if it knew where it was, as if it had finally come home. Before them floated a planet both familiar and strange. Blue oceans, white clouds, green land masses. It was Earth, but the ship didn't head for the cities or the satellites. It flew beneath the noise, beneath the maps, beneath history. "Where is it taking us?" Zira asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "To the part of Earth no one remembers." Eli replied, to the place that remembers us. The Gravemind glided silently through Earth's outer layers. No alarms, no detection. It avoided every scanner like it had done this before, like it still had the old codes. Then, deep under the crust of the planet, in a place darker than night, the ship stopped. Zira looked out the viewing screen and gasped. There was no rock, no lava, only space and underground sky, a hollow world hidden inside the earth. Floating in the center was a massive black temple. It looked like it had been carved from a single stone the size of a mountain. Golden lines moved slowly across its surface, like it was breathing. Around it, no signs of life, no ships, no machines, just one structure, waiting. The Gravemind opened its lower hatch. The path to the temple appeared, floating steps across a bottomless void. Zira turned to Eli. "Are you ready for this?" "No," he said, "but I think it's ready for us." They stepped out together, silence wrapping around them like a cloak. No wind, no echo, just their footsteps on glowing stone. When they reached the temple, the doors opened without touch. Inside, the air felt thick, not with dust, but with memory. Symbols lit up along the walls. Not Dorelian, not Kravek, not any alien script Zira had ever studied. Yet somehow, Eli read them, out loud, softly. "This is the cradle," he said. "The place where the first voices were taught to sing." Zira shivered. "This isn't just a place," she said. "It's the beginning." They walked deeper. The temple shifted around them, always leading them somewhere new. Then they reached it, a room with no ceiling, no walls, just stars above and earth below. At the center floated a small glowing orb, not a weapon, not a machine, just light, pure and warm. Zira stepped closer. She felt nothing dangerous, only calm. But Eli dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. "It's calling," he said. "It knows me." Visions burst around them. Images of Earth before time, humans working with alien species in harmony, not fighting, not surviving, building. Then something changed. A war broke out. Greed, fear, division. The key of life was hidden. The Gravemind sent away. The past was erased, rewritten, forgotten. Zira saw it all, saw her own species in the early alliances, saw how far they had fallen, and realized how small their understanding truly was. The light dimmed, and a voice filled the temple. Not a ship's voice, not a machine's, but something older. "The seed must be planted again," it said, "through unity, not control." Eli stood slowly. "I know what to do," he said. But before he could speak further, an explosion rocked the chamber. The Kravak had found them. A blast tore through the outer structure. Alarms rang across the Gravemind above. Zira grabbed Eli's arm. "We have to get out." "No," he said. "We have to protect this." The wall shook, and the temple began to collapse. Zira looked back at the glowing orb, still floating calmly in chaos. "This isn't a weapon," she said. "It's a beginning." The two raced back to the ship, the ground falling away beneath them. As they reached the final step, a Kravak drone blocked their path. It fired. Zira pushed Eli aside and took the hit. Pain exploded in her side. She collapsed onto the Gravemind's ramp, breathing hard. Eli lifted her gently, his face filled with fear and anger. "You're not dying here," he said. "You just unlocked everything." The Gravemind closed its hatch and lifted. Below them, the temple fell into darkness once more. But the key of life was not lost. It had chosen, and the galaxy would soon feel its return. The Gravemind flew like fire through space, its wings of golden light cutting across the stars. Behind it, a fleet of Kravak warships chased in silence. They did not come to talk. They came to end a truth too powerful to exist. Inside the ship, Ailey stood in front of the command orb. His hands were steady, his eyes full of light, but his heart beat with something heavier than fear. Zira lay in the medical chamber, still breathing, but barely. She had saved his life, and now it was his turn. The key of life floated near the ship's core, glowing stronger with every second. It was no longer just an object, it was awake. And it was waiting for him. Eli closed his eyes. The ship surrounded him with memory and energy. It showed him Earth, the ancient cities, the alliances lost in time. It showed him the truth: humans had not been born weak. They had forgotten their strength. Zira's voice came through the comms, weak but clear. "Don't let them take it," she said. "I won't," Eli replied. "I was never supposed to be a hero. But maybe that's why I was chosen." The Kravak fleet arrived in formation, weapons locked. The Gravemind stopped moving, not because it was afraid, but because it was ready. Defense systems active. The ship announced, "Primary pilot Eli Trent." Eli placed his hand on the orb. The ship transformed, its wings widened, panels opened, and ancient cannons rose from the hull. But Eli didn't fire. He sent a pulse of warning, one last chance to turn back. The Kravak answered with silence. Then they opened fire. The first wave of plasma beams came fast. The Gravemind moved faster. It danced through the storm, bending. Light and space. Each time it returned fire, a Kravak ship went dark. No explosions, no destruction, just silence. The ship was not killing, it was shutting them down, forcing them to feel. Inside the fleet, confusion grew. The Kravak ships began to break formation. Some fled, some powered down. But one, the Dread King's flagship, kept coming. A ship blacker than shadow, older than the Gravemind. It fired a core beam, aimed straight at Eli. Eli turned to the key. He didn't speak. He simply stepped into the light. The Gravemind absorbed him, not destroying, but merging. Pilot and ship became one. From the heart of the Gravemind, a burst of golden light erupted. It wasn't a weapon, it was memory. Every Kravak ship stopped moving, inside each one. The crew saw visions, of peace, of unity, of what the galaxy once was, and what it still could be. The Dread King's ship cracked, its weapons dying, and for the first time in Kravak history, it surrendered. Silence returned. The Gravemind hovered alone, glowing gently, inside. The orb was dim. Zira stumbled in, calling Eli's name, but there was no voice. Only a message carved into the control panel. Not lost. Returned. Zira fell to her knees. Tears slipped from her eyes, not from pain, but from awe. Eli had not died. He had become part of the ship, a guardian, a guide, a legend. Weeks passed. The Kravak signed peace with the Galactic Council, and Earth, once seen as weak, became the heart of a new alliance. The story of the human pilot spread across the stars, not as a tale of war, but of remembrance. Zira now stood on a platform orbiting Earth. The Gravemind floated behind her, peaceful and silent. She spoke to thousands watching across the galaxy. "We called humans primitive," she said. "We were wrong. They are not the end of a story. They are the beginning of it, and far beyond." Deep within the Gravemind's core, a heartbeat echoed steady, eternal. Eli Trent lived on. Not as a soldier, not as a man, but as a legend of the stars. The one who flew the ship that no one else could, and reminded the galaxy who humans truly were.